In December 2004, a seemingly ordinary American family, the Bennetts, embarked on a Christmas vacation that would forever alter the course of their lives. Maria, the masterous, compassionate mother, Henry, the pragmatic father, and their three spirited sons, Lucas, Thomas, and Simon, were en route to a picturesque resort in Thailand. Henry, ever the worrier, expressed his anxieties about leaving their home unattended, a fear Maria quickly assuaged, reminding him of the activated alarm system. Their youngest, Thomas, sought comfort from his mother, complaining about his older brother Lucas's teasing. Maria, with a gentle understanding, explained to Lucas that Thomas found security in his presence, much like Lucas himself once feared turbulence as a child. This seemingly mundane family interaction, filled with the everyday concerns and affections of a loving household, belied the unimaginable terror that lay just hours ahead.
I wonder who he takes after.
Upon their arrival at the idyllic Thai resort, they were greeted by a welcoming staff member who guided them through the lush grounds. Henry, a professional working in Japan, clarified their American origins, while Maria, a former doctor who had paused her career to raise her children, humbly described her past profession. That evening, the family savored a delightful dinner, their laughter echoing through the restaurant, a testament to their joyous reunion and the promise of a perfect holiday. Christmas Eve brought with it the warmth of tradition as Maria and Henry woke their sons, presenting them with gifts and capturing their pure, unadulterated joy on camera. The following day, amidst the refreshing waters of the resort swimming pool, a subtle tension emerged. Maria, sensing Henry's unease, learned of his potential job loss. Her offer to resume her medical career to alleviate their financial burdens was met with Henry's proud refusal, a moment of marital friction that would soon be dwarfed by an impending catastrophe. Suddenly, a fierce wind swept through the resort, a chilling prelude to the unimaginable. Without warning, a colossal tsunami, a force of nature beyond human comprehension, engulfed the entire complex. In the ensuing chaos, Maria, with an almost superhuman instinct, clung desperately to a tree trunk, her desperate cries for her family lost amidst the roar of the water. Her heart sank as she believed them lost, until, through the swirling debris and relentless currents, she caught a glimpse of her eldest son, Lucas. A surge of hope mingled with terror propelled her forward, but a severe injury to her leg rendered her immobile. The sheer force of the water, coupled with her agonizing wound, made movement impossible. With a voice raw with pain and urgency, Maria screamed for Lucas to grasp onto anything solid, a desperate plea for survival in a world turned upside down. Moments later, mother and son were reunited, Lucas's face etched with sheer terror. Maria, despite her own excruciating pain, embraced him, offering what little comfort she could. Clinging to the same tree trunk, they held on for dear life as the tsunami's fury slowly subsided. As the immediate danger passed, Lucas collapsed, overwhelmed by tears and fear. Maria, ever the pillar of strength, reassured him that fear was a natural, even necessary emotion in their fight for survival. They began their arduous journey through the receding waters, seeking solid ground. It was then that Lucas discovered the full extent of his mother's injury, a gaping, bleeding wound that sent a wave of panic through him. Unable to bear the sight, he confessed his inability to look at her. Maria, understanding his distress, urged him to walk ahead, sparing him the gruesome sight. They pressed on, eventually reaching dry land. Lucas, spotting a large tree, suggested they climb it, a prudent decision given the lingering threat of another wave, but their ascent was interrupted by the faint cries of a child, calling for his father. Maria, her compassion overriding her pain, insisted they help. Lucas, initially hesitant, fearing for their own safety, was reminded by his mother of their moral obligation to aid others in such dire circumstances. Convinced, they searched for the child, finding him distraught and alone. His name was Daniel. Lucas, offering words of comfort, assured Daniel that the worst was over, and with a strength beyond his years, carried the boy on his back to the safety of the tree. He then helped Daniel and his injured mother ascend, Maria enduring immense pain with unwavering determination. Hours later, still perched in the tree, their hopes dwindled until Lucas spotted two men approaching. His desperate shouts for help were answered, and they were finally brought down to solid ground. Maria, her strength completely depleted, was dragged along the ground, her screams of agony echoing until she finally succumbed to unconsciousness. She awoke to the unfamiliar surroundings of a Thai family's home, their faces filled with concern. They assured her that she would be taken to a hospital. It was then, in a moment of crushing realization, that Maria understood the true extent of their loss. Her husband and two of her sons were gone. A wave of grief, so profound it threatened to consume her, washed over her. She clung to Lucas, pleading with him to stay by her side, unable to bear the thought of losing him too. Moments later, an ambulance arrived, transporting Maria and Lucas to the hospital. On the way, Maria, noticing Daniel's absence, inquired about him, her heart sinking at the unknown fate of the child they had rescued. At the hospital, Lucas was confronted with a scene of unimaginable devastation. Bodies and injured individuals strewn everywhere. He frantically searched for his father and brothers, his desperate pleas lost in the cacophony of suffering. A doctor attended to Maria's leg, her screams of pain piercing the air as he worked without anesthesia. She begged him to save her, reminding him that Lucas could not survive without her. Maria was then moved to the emergency room, surrounded by countless critically injured patients. Her gaze fell upon a woman in her late 30s, her face a mask of shock. Unable to speak, the woman suddenly struggled for breath, vomiting blood, a horrifying sight that caused Maria to retch as well. A nurse, arriving just in time, offered what assistance she could. Amidst the chaos, Maria heard a man calling for his wife, his voice filled with despair. The sheer size of the hospital and the overwhelming number of patients made his search futile. Maria, her compassion unwavering, urged Lucas to help others find their loved ones. Lucas, reluctant to leave his mother, was reassured by Maria that she would be fine, reiterating the importance of helping others, for it was through such acts that they would find their own salvation. Convinced, Lucas left his mother's side, embarking on a selfless mission to reunite families. He found a father searching for his injured child, and the joy of their reunion filled Lucas with a profound sense of purpose. He rushed back to his mother, eager to share his triumph, only to find her bed empty. Panic seized him as he frantically questioned the nurses, none of whom knew her whereabouts. A kind nurse, calming his fears, promised to help him find her, asking him to wait in the cafeteria. Alone, Lucas wept, consumed by the terrifying thought that his mother might be gone. Meanwhile, Henry, miraculously alive, searched tirelessly for Maria and Lucas. He walked for what felt like an eternity, eventually reaching their hotel room, a desperate hope that they might be there. But the room was empty. A sharp pain in his chest forced him to the ground. It was then that Thomas and Simon, his two younger sons, appeared, having been saved from the raging waters by a stranger. Henry, overwhelmed with relief and gratitude, embraced them, promising to find Maria and Lucas. He instructed Thomas to look after Simon, assuring them that rescue teams would soon arrive to take them to safety. Thomas, however, refused to leave his father, pleading to join him. Henry, his heart aching, promised to return the next morning after he had found Maria and Lucas. Thomas, still fearful, was comforted by his father's empathy and the promise of their reunion. Soon after, the rescue vehicle arrived, taking Thomas and Simon away. Henry, his emotions raw, watched them go, steeling himself for the arduous search ahead. He scoured the surrounding resorts, his exhaustion growing with each passing moment, until an American family, passing by in their car, offered him a ride to a safe haven. There, Henry met Damon, a man who had lost his wife and newborn daughter in the tsunami. Henry, deeply moved by Damon's tragedy, asked to use his phone. He called a colleague, his voice breaking, as he confessed his inability to find Maria and Lucas, burdened by the guilt of suggesting Thailand for their vacation. His colleague, offering support, promised to notify the company to arrange a private plane. Damon, touched by Henry's plight, offered to join him in his search. At the same time, Thomas and Simon found refuge in a mountain safe zone. An elderly woman, sitting beside them, listened to their story with profound empathy, commending Thomas for his bravery in caring for his younger brother. Back at the hospital, Lucas sat alone in a tent until the nurse returned, presenting him with accessories and asking if they belonged to his mother. Disoriented, Lucas struggled to recall. The nurse then led him to the intensive care unit, where he found his mother, her condition critical, speaking with great difficulty. Lucas, believing her dead, broke down in tears. Maria, despite her pain, comforted him, apologizing for causing him fear and assuring him of her recovery. Lucas then asked the nurse why his mother had been moved. The nurse explained that Maria had suffered a severe hemorrhage that morning, requiring emergency surgery, and would need another operation the following day due to her critical condition. The next day, Henry and Damon began their search for the family, meticulously checking every resort, but to no avail. Henry decided to extend his search to the hospitals. Meanwhile, Thomas and Simon, along with other orphan children, were being transported to an orphanage. At the hospital, Lucas sat by his mother's side, his heart heavy with fear as she struggled to breathe. He then spotted Daniel, the boy they had rescued, walking through the hospital. Lucas followed him, overjoyed to find Daniel reunited with his father. He rushed back to his mother, eager to share the good news, but found her too weak to comprehend. Lucas asked how she felt, and Maria, her voice weak, complained of excruciating leg pain, asking him to describe its color. Lucas, horrified to see her leg had turned blue, lied assuring her it was normal, fearing to alarm her further. He then sought out the nurse, expressing his concern for his mother's deteriorating condition and his fear that she might lose her leg. The nurse reassured him that Maria would undergo surgery that day and that her leg would not be amputated. At that very moment, Henry arrived at the hospital, frantically searching for his wife and son, but the vastness of the hospital and the multitude of patients made his search impossible. Simultaneously, Lucas, walking alone, saw his father leaving the hospital. He called out, but Henry, unable to hear him, continued on. Lucas ran after him, but Henry had already disappeared. Then, the car carrying Thomas and Simon pulled up outside the hospital. They heard Lucas calling for their father and shouted his name. Lucas, seeing them, ran to embrace his brothers. Henry, hearing his son's voices, rushed back, and the family was finally reunited, their joy overflowing. They entered the hospital to check on Maria, who, upon seeing her husband and sons, burst into tears, having believed them dead. Henry, holding back his own tears, urged her to be strong, reminding her that they couldn't live without her. Maria, overwhelmed, told him her condition was dire, asking him to care for the boys if anything happened to her. Henry, his voice choked with emotion, refused to accept her words, promising that she would survive the surgery and recover. Moments later, the nurse arrived to take Maria to the operating room. Maria, terrified of the anesthesia, feared she would not wake up, but the nurse assured her it was necessary to alleviate her pain, promising her that she was in capable hands and that the surgery would be successful, performed by the hospital's most skilled doctor. That night, Henry and his sons waited anxiously outside the operating room, their worry growing with each passing hour. Henry, acknowledging Lucas's bravery, told him that without his courage, Maria might not have survived, thanking him for his responsibility. Lucas in turn credited his mother, stating that without her, he too might have perished. Hours later, exhaustion claimed Lucas, and he drifted into a fitful sleep, plagued by nightmares of the tsunami, seeing his mother drowning. Henry gently woke him, delivering the joyous news that Maria's surgery was a success and she was recovering. Lucas, overwhelmed with relief, finally felt a sense of peace. Later, the family arrived at the airport where an insurance company representative, a colleague of Henry's, informed them that a private plane would transport them to a hospital in Singapore for Maria's continued treatment. On their way to the plane, they witnessed the widespread devastation, bodies scattered everywhere, a stark reminder of the tragedy they had endured. As the five of them boarded the plane, Lucas went to check on his mother, asking how she felt. Maria, her voice stronger, told him she was much better and asked what he had wanted to tell her at the hospital. Lucas, with a smile, told her that Daniel had found his father. Maria, overcome with emotion, wept tears of joy, telling Lucas how much she loved him and thanking him profusely, acknowledging that without him, she would not have survived. Moments later, the plane ascended, carrying them towards Singapore, a family forever changed, yet profoundly grateful for their miraculous survival. The film concludes, leaving viewers with a powerful message of resilience, love, and the indomitable human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity.